Welcome, good neighbors, to the I Love Buffalo podcast. I'm your host, Josh Ketry. Today on the podcast, what is the ice boom and why does it matter? Trimania is back. Cruise ships take a step towards coming to Buffalo. The opening week of the Bisons kicks off. And the history of Buffalo, part 2, the Ice Age. All this and more on this episode of the I Love Buffalo podcast.
Why'd you do it?
Because you asked me to.
That right there was local DJ producer Jay Lauda, spelled Lauda. And it was a remix of Danny Elfman's Ice Dance. So Jay Lauda does a lot of tracks on his own and does some remixes as well. There's an intriguing theory that certain musical frequencies or tunings are better or healthier for humans. And this idea revolves around tuning standards, specifically the frequency of 432 hertz versus the commonly used 440 hertz, which is like the standard that all commercial music is used at today. There's a theory that 440 hertz is actually pretty bad for humans. It sets us off to bad rhythms. Jay and I have had some communications, and we've talked before, and he's made songs that are in tune more with the human frequency. So if you like electronic music and good vibration, and that's something that you're into, I would definitely check out Jay Lauda. Again, Lauda, and you can find Jay on Spotify as well as YouTube. All right, in our first segment here, we're going to talk about Buffalo eyeing its terminal to be a place for giant cruise ships to come and bring people that are tourists, basically, to town. Patrick Kaler, the CEO of Visit Buffalo Niagara, told Two on Your Side on Friday that the state is moving ahead with the plans to bring Great Lakes cruise ships to the Queen City. The ships can carry about 200 passengers, and they would travel all the Great Lakes. Some of these trips can cost up to $5,000. As you know, I'm in a lot of environmental groups and conservation groups such as the Niagara Muskie Association, the Buffalo Ornithological Society, some fossil groups I've joined, things like this. And there was some concerns about bringing these cruise ships to Buffalo. I personally think there's a way to bring them to Buffalo that's also conscious of the environment. I do think it's very important to have these cruise ships or other ways to bring money from the outside of Buffalo into Buffalo through tourism. And we have a lot of cool stuff right here in Buffalo that no one else has. For one, we have the largest freshwater system on Earth right in our backyard. And if there's going to be cruise ships and a way to tour them, it actually sounds kind of interesting to me. I would love to go on a tour and see some of the port cities on the Great Lakes, connect ourselves with other cities. But it's a way for bringing money from the outside of Buffalo into Buffalo. So we talk about this at Pearl Street and Riverworks a lot, where we're a hub for outside credit cards. Like tons of people from outside the area, Pittsburgh, Toronto, they come to Buffalo for the day. They spend money with us. That money goes into our community and then is respent. So like the servers and the bartenders and the banquet guests and all these people exchange money, and that money comes from the outside into Buffalo and then goes into our economy, and then it's used again to buy more things, and it's exchanged back and forth. And I think a cruise ship could be an awesome idea as long as they take into consideration the environmental concerns. It sounds exciting. I look forward to seeing what their plans are and if they accommodate some environmentalism along the way, which I hope they do. Every change that you make that is for tourism or for industry should offset it some way by realizing that the Great Lakes are an amazing natural resource that we have at our fingertips, and we need to respect that and be stewards of that right here in Buffalo. Speaking of the environment in the Great Lakes, in our next segment, we're going to talk about the ice boom. And every year they put the ice boom in around December and they take it out this time of year. And so what is the ice boom and why is it important? So the ice boom is basically these metal steel pontoons that are chained together and they go across the head of the river there, just south of the Peace Bridge. So you're talking out kind of by the roundhouse there. You can see they almost look like logs, these steel beams that are connected. And their purpose is to block ice flowage from heading downstream and then jamming up the hydroelectric power production that happens downstream. So you don't want all this ice flow happening. This ice boom blocks the chunks from making these floating icebergs, basically, that can damage a lot of stuff downstream. Over the years, there's been quite a bit of controversy to do with the ice boom as well, especially how it affects the climate here in Buffalo, because it holds ice just off to the west of us, up in the lake, that normally would be flowing downstream. And picture like a fan on a bucket full of ice blowing towards us. That means that the winter lasts longer, but also things like the spawning fish. The colder water holds the fish back from being able to spawn earlier, which in turn would let the grasses in the water, the eel grasses and the cabbage and things like this, grow sooner to protect the fry, to make the fish hatching process and the fry have a better chance of living because they'll have protection from the cover from the eel grasses and things like this. Also, for people like myself who have cabin fever and really want to get out and enjoy the outdoors and the water and the fishing, it prolongs the process. There's also debate about the birds and their migratory patterns going around the ice. Seeing the ice affects the birds as well, and some of their nesting is right on the edges of the lakes or even on some of the concrete structures out on the lake. And there's been arguments that the ice boom affects them as well. That being said, this is the week they usually take the ice boom out, and it is welcome. And that's how we know springtime is here in Buffalo, is when the ice boom is removed, the ice chunks flow down river, and we can start getting out on the open water again. In our next segment here, Trimania is back. After a 7-year hiatus, the much-anticipated Trimania reboot is scheduled for Saturday, March 29th. So that's this Saturday, 7 o'clock to 12 o'clock. The event promises an unforgettable night filled with diverse performances and artistic expressions. Trimania is a dynamic, multi-faced arts event held in Buffalo, New York, and it's organized by the Buffalo Arts Studio, and it's hosted within the expansive Tri-Main Center. It's like a repurposed factory now serving as a hub for artist studios and local startups and things like this. I know quite a few people that started businesses in that building, and it's a great little incubator kind of place where there's common spaces and a common cafeteria, meeting rooms, but also each kind of business can have its own private place. It's huge. It's massive. It's 6 floors, 600,000 square foot space, and there's going to be art, music, culture, everything mixed together. Those are my favorite kind of events, these big giant events. This event features a mix of live bands, DJs, dancers, visual arts, performers, poets, interactive installations, and there's all different kinds of stuff to do. Walk around, check it out. So the Trimania serves as a significant fundraiser for the Buffalo Arts Studio as well. So it's raising money for a good cause. Buffalo is known for his art. It's cool to support that if you can. And then also you get to check out the whole building, all the workspaces. It's kind of like an open house with exhibitions and things like this. So give that a check out if you're into the arts and music scene. Highly recommend that. I've been to it before. In our next segment here, it's opening week for the Buffalo Bisons, our AAA baseball home team. And this is the earliest home opener in franchise history, March 28th. So that was a kind of a big risk to do because March can still be very cold. But they did it. They set a new record. They want to emphasize the team's readiness to embrace early season challenges. They've done a bunch of new changes to enhance the fan experience at Salem Field. First, they got a new sound system, which is supposed to be awesome. So fans can look forward to that. Upgraded experience with a complete overhauled sound system, surround sound of the whole building, enhancing the game day atmosphere. Last year, we saw the Savannah Bananas there, which is pretty cool. It's kind of like a play meets a baseball game, and it's really great to take kids to or something like that, where it's kind of fun and interactive, almost like the Harlem Globetrotters for baseball, where they do all kinds of weird stuff. There's an actual game that's being played, but it's very interactive with music and dancing, and the players dance, and players come out on stilts and do all kinds of weird stuff. I think they're coming back this year as well. I have to look into that, but I remember hearing that they were going to come back. But with the enhanced sound system and everything, it should be really awesome. Would highly recommend that. They've done a bunch more additions for promotionals and giveaways and things like that. There's a kids cheer free weekend during the opening weekend games on March 29th and 30th. The children 14 and under can attend the game with any paid adult ticket. So if you're an adult and you're going to the game for opening weekend, you can bring kids under 14 for free. There's new concessions, new merchandise, new culinary additions. You can eat things like the Salem's Buffalo Chicken Wings Super Nachos and their chicken logs. They're also doing a thing called Throwback Thursdays where teams can introduce like retro jerseys and things like this. And then they have what are always a huge hit are their special events to look forward to. And these are really cool where you can like dress up or go for a theme night. There's a Star Wars night on May 31st, Harry Potter night, which is August 23rd. And that means like themed jerseys and giveaways. And there's a scarf giveaway and wands and things like this. There's a post-game drone show August 2nd. I really want to see this. I seen a drone show one time at a concert where they flew thousands of drones in the air that lit up in different ways and they'd move through the sky and could make all different kinds of formations based on a computer algorithm. And it was super cool to see. This was in Colorado where I saw this, but it was something that I've always wanted to see again and wondered why it never really came to Buffalo. So August 2nd is the post-game drone show. That should be pretty awesome. There's also the Marvel Superhero Night, and that is August 16th. So if you're a baseball fan or Bisons fan, another great sign that spring is here. That all starts this weekend, kicking off the Bisons. The Bisons home opener, again, will be Friday, March 28th at 2:05 p.m. And the weather's supposed to be pretty nice, looking like 50 degrees, which is, jacket weather, but still awesome. I mean, maybe if some of the ice flows downstream by then, it will be a little bit warmer. So if you're into baseball and sports, that's something you could also check out this weekend. All right, in this next segment, we're going to talk about the history of Buffalo. And last segment, we went way back, 375 million years ago. This time, we're going to go way back again to the Ice Age. But the Ice Age wasn't that long ago. A lot of people think the Ice Age was like a long, long time ago. This is not true. The Ice Age ended about 11,700 years ago. So if you think about that in terms of people or generations, you're talking about maybe 120 or 130 people ago. So, if people live to be about 100 years old or 90 years old, that's not so long ago. This is when the Great Lakes were formed. The Great Lakes did not exist before 120 people ago, which is kind of hard to fathom. So right where we are right now in Buffalo, New York, where we're sitting right now, it was 1 mile thick of ice. So imagine that sitting right here on top of a mile high, thick sheet of ice. That's what this was right here. Everything melted very rapidly. And during this time when everything melted, the Great Lakes were formed as the glaciers scraped across, dug out the ground, and formed the Great Lakes. So this giant sheet of ice melted really fast. After it melted really fast, it scraped across part of North America here and formed the Great Lakes. Now, there's a lot of debate as to what caused this to happen and why this happened. I mean, we talk about climate change now, and you're talking about 1 to 2 degrees. Back then, you're talking about 30 degrees in some spots, 40 degrees. It would just change super rapidly. You can do ice core samples of ice that still exists on this planet that's super old. And picture like putting a straw in a Slurpee and then pulling it out. You can do this with ice. And you can look at every year. And year over year, you can see each layer almost like a ring of a tree, or like the fossil layers that you can find in slate or shale rock where it's layered. You can do the same thing with ice. And when you do that with ice and you take a look at year over year, you get back about 11,700 years ago and things start to go crazy. We were super cold and then it warms up and then it gets cold again. It warms up, it gets cold again. And there's a weird layer that is found that has micro diamonds in it, which suggests that where we are right now or somewhere on this planet, something collided or hit us and it caused diamonds to form and turn into dust, fly into the air and get caught in these layers. During this same time period, over half of the megafauna on this planet disappeared, which is crazy to think about that just 120 people ago, we had all different kinds of animals right here in North America, right here in where we're sitting. There were mammoths, there were mastodons, saber-toothed tigers, giant ground sloths. There were short-faced giant bears, dire wolves, which were like huge wolves, huge beavers, these giant beavers. There are American lions. Did you know that there are lions here? American camels, and even giant horses. All of these went extinct right around the same time that the ice melted very rapidly. And there are case studies to show that there are mammoths that are found, I think in Siberia, if I'm correct. I have to look this one up. But there's like a baby mammoth found pretty much intact. It got whatever happened to it, it got washed away in ice, pushed down a crack, and frozen over time. And it was found with plant food in its mouth, with flowering plant food. So wherever it was warm enough to have plants, and it was eating plants, and something happened to it so fast that it like flash froze itself, pushed itself down a crack, and was preserved all this time to be discovered in recent times. There are a lot of theories as to exactly what happened or why this all happened, but I think the best one, the most compelling one anyways, is that our ice shield got struck by something, a meteor or a comet or something that caused a great rapid heating really quickly. And when this happened, it created a giant lake inside the ice, and eventually the ice dam broke and water rushed down like the center of America, which created the Grand Canyon and things like this as water rushed over things. But whatever happened wasn't just in America. There are stories of a great flood that come from almost every civilization on Earth. So you have all different kinds of civilizations on Earth. Noah's Ark, the story of that. Mesopotamia has one with the Epic of Gilgamesh. There's a giant flood then. The Greeks have a story, the Zeus floods the world. The Hindus have a story. The Chinese have the flood myth. The Norse Scandinavian culture has a flood myth. The Incas have a great flood that wipes out humanity and people hide in a cave on a mountain. The Native Americans have the Turtle Island story where people survive by climbing on the back of a turtle and help recreate land. In Australia, there's a very similar story. Polynesia, Hawaii, these various floods exist across cultures all around the same time, coming, passed down from generation to generation, and all aligns with the end of the ice age. So to cause a giant flood or to cause the sea levels to rise, which is exactly what happened. The sea levels in some places rose 400 feet. So that's an amazingly high amount for the sea levels to rise. And there are even theories of this is how Atlantis got put under the water, and things like there was modern civilization that already existed and got crushed by the floods. So if you think about it, most people today live near water. The majority of humans have set up on coastal spots. And if the floods all of a sudden lifted 400 feet, the sea level, that would cause a lot of problems and maybe even cause humanity to have to start over. If humanity stopped right now, if we stopped existing right now, most things would be gone within like 100 years and certainly within 1,000 years. Think about a car sitting out in the elements. Think about how fast that would disintegrate. Within 5 to 10 years, the tires are gone. And then 20 years, most of the structure is going away. Plants are growing in it. Animals are living in it. Within 100 years, pretty much the whole thing is disintegrated back into the earth. The things that stick around for long periods of time are stone and glass, and that's it. Nearly everything else is gone within 10,000 years. There'd be very, very little things left of civilization. And even though these are only theories, Buffalo, New York is unique in the sense that we are on the corner of one of the Great Lakes, and the Great Lakes themselves were formed during this time. This end of the Ice Age period has fascinated me since I started learning about it. And I started learning about it probably about 10 years ago. I started my journey studying this a little bit well before I got into fossils. So recently, like I said in a previous podcast, I got into some of our local fossils. I went out last week and tried to find some. I was not successful. I don't really know what I'm doing, though. I just kind of winged it and went out in a couple spots in some of the creeks that have ravines and cliffs and just kind of looked around and saw what I was, basically looking for And now I've gone back and found more information, and I plan on trying it again. But the Ice Age stuff has fascinated me for a while. There's places in Alaska right now. There's one place called the Boneyard, and the Boneyard has permafrost, where it's frozen year round, as part of the ground. And they're finding like mammoths, tusks, like still intact, all different kinds of stuff from this time period. And that stuff really fascinates me because it was so not long ago. It was only, like I said, 120 people ago. So it begs the question to ask what happened. And if it was some kind of event from outer space, like a comet or a meteor, shouldn't humanity be focused on these kinds of problems instead of fighting each other? We should be unifying against these big, giant extinction events that have happened to Earth because they've happened a bunch of times. And if we're not prepared for that, we're going to be in trouble. Right now, we're infighting and fighting over things that are minuscule compared to sea level rising 400 feet if a giant meteor crashes into the ocean, or if a comet breaks apart and several pieces hit the Earth, which is a theory right now that has the most legs, that's growing the most, and more people and more people are presenting evidence saying there's a comet that passes by Earth, and when it does, it fragments, and some of those fragments got sucked into our gravitational field, smashed into Earth, destroyed the ice shields, changed the tilt of the Earth, caused tidal waves and all different kinds of problems with the ocean, put diamonds up into the atmosphere, made it a dark ages where there was no light getting through, and the temperature of Earth really was climate change, rapid climate change, 20-degree adjustments year over year, according to the ice core samples taken in Greenland. So if you're looking for fossils in Western New York from the Ice Age period, that's completely different than the 375 million-year-old Devonian period where we're finding, shallow sea life. You can find Ice Age fossils and bones in central New York. There's a really good spot that archaeologists and paleontologists have found called the Hiscock site. And this is in Genesee County near Byron, New York. And they found mastodon bones there and tusks. They have also found tools used by early Paleo-Indian cultures. So if you're into this kind of thing, if this interests you, we're in a great spot here in Western New York and Buffalo to explore all different kinds of history, from before the dinosaurs to the Ice Age. All right, in our last segment here, we're going to talk about the events in Buffalo, New York this week. And why do we discuss events? Because meeting in person is important. With all of our phones and technology today, we are stuck inside and isolated, and this is not good for people. Technology can be amazing. It can connect us in all different kinds of ways, keep us connected to people who live far away, but we need in-person connection. Humans are designed for this. Actually, we need to find a way to mix the two. Mix real life with the digital life in ways that are productive. So not just ways of arguing, but ways of solving problems together. And we need ways to keep AI and bots out of our digital systems. And the easiest way to do that is to meet people in real life and combine that with a digital life where we vouch for each other and say, hey, I know Frank, he's a real person, and I vouch for you. And then you vouch for me. The same way you do on Amazon and eBay, right? On Amazon and eBay, we trust each other because other people in a decentralized fashion rate you. You get 5 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars, 5 stars. That decentralized rating system means the whole world gets to judge you and we all get to see. Well, we could do the same thing with our digital systems and keep AI and bots out and create a new system where you're only allowed to go there if you're willing to meet people in real life. And not everyone will do this. Some people want anonymity on the internet, and I get that. But some people don't care. They just want community and strong, high trust community. And I think that's more important. I think it's really important, actually. I think that's how we fix everything is we create a mixed IRL and URL and high trust societies, and we solve problems together, both in small groups and in large groups. And we do so from the bottom up, unlike our current systems, which are top down and corrupted, and therefore really not the best for us. We're not working and getting results that we need to see. We need to see results, and our systems are not getting results. We'll talk about this in a minute, but we're going to talk about the events right now here in Buffalo, New York for this upcoming week, the last week of March. The first event is going to be at Pearl Street on the 29th, that Saturday. This is an event that's near and dear to my heart because it is a fundraiser for my close friend. His name is Hans Mann. He is a fishing guide on Lake Erie. He's known as one of the best multi-species anglers out there. He also carves fish out of wood. And if you've ever been to Pearl Street, there's a tiger muskie in the middle of the dining room. He carved it out of wood, and it took him a long time, like 6 months to make it. He burns each scale one at a time, and it looks so real that most people cannot believe that it's made out of wood. It's just amazing. It's my favorite thing that I own. And Hans has had some heart problems and is requiring a very specialized surgery and has been out of work and is working towards this right now. And we're doing a fundraiser for him. And that's going to be this Saturday at 5:00. Tickets are $20 at the door. Listen, the prizes for this are awesome. If you're into fishing at all, I'm excited. I am really genuinely excited about some of the prizes that I can even win. There's custom rods for smallmouth bass fishing and musky lures and all kinds of baskets and all different kinds of stuff that is donated from restaurants and just friends. It's awesome. I love things like this where people come together and solve problems in a group and help each other out collectively. And this is a perfect example of that. So many people have come together and put this together. It's great to see. If you can make it out, I definitely will be there. That's Saturday, the 29th. It's $20. And you get, with the $20, you get some finger foods, but you also get a thing of tickets that you can put in baskets and win these rods, fishing trips, guided trips with like all the best guides in the Northeast. Like so many guides threw in a trip to win. You can go fishing from, Lake St. Clair with the best muskie guides out there to Lake Erie with the best walleye guys. You can go on Lake Ontario for the best salmon guys. All these people came together and donated just so much stuff. There's really, really awesome muskie baits that are one of a kind, hand carved. Like if you don't know muskie baits, some of these muskie baits resell for thousands of dollars sometimes. So there's just one of a kind things here. And it'll be a good time. If you want to just meet people, come hang out. You hear this on the podcast, you're sitting home, come on out. Let's meet some people. Let's make better communities. That's where I'll be on the 29th, at least for the beginning of the night. I might check out Trimania after that. On the 30th, also at Pearl Street, the Sunday the 30th, at 12 noon to 3 o'clock is our annual wedding show. And that's both at Pearl Street and Riverworks. So if you know anyone getting married, they show off the rooms. They set up all the rooms. There's vendors, DJs, free food and drinks. You got to sign up as a bride and sign up online. If you do that, you can come and hang out, bring your family, and get a tour of the rooms, some historic buildings. It's a lot of fun. I'll be working that as well. Also, we already said we have Trimania. We have the Bisons home opener. Can't forget about that. At KeyBank Center this week, you have Sabres a couple times. There's a Bandits game versus the Warriors. And then on the 31st, which is Monday, you have the band Heart, the 80s band, which is great. It's like a hair band. That should be really fun. Jackrabbit at 1 o'clock on the 30th is a Grateful brunch. So this is with the Buffalo Dead All-Stars. If you like the Grateful Dead, which I like, you can have brunch and check out some Grateful Dead. I've actually gone to their Grateful brunch before. It was a really good time. The Kaz has Pharaoh at 8 o'clock on the 28th. And on the 30th at 6 o'clock is the Sleepwater Band. Riverworks this weekend, there's K4 Fighting Full Force. This is thrown by Keith Ferrant and his team there. This is the best MMA event like anywhere around. It's awesome. Riverworks is such a cool venue for this kind of thing where you can look down from the VIP seats right into the cage. There's music. It's a good time. If you're into martial arts, like you can go check this out, meet people, join a team. As we always say in this podcast, find jujitsu for your kids. This is a good place to go meet some jujitsu teachers in the area. Get your kids into jujitsu or yourself or the whole family. Plenty of the schools in the area have jujitsu programs for the whole family. So you can come down and everyone can train. It's a good place to meet people. I've met new students myself at the K4 fighting events that are now full-time students. At Nickel City Brews in Depew, that's going to be karaoke night on the 29th at 7 o'clock. Hofbrau House has 90s night, and that's on the 29th at 8:30. The Sportsman's, and that's up in Amherst Street, has Blaze Foley tribute band, and that is going to be at 9 o'clock on the 30th. And that is basically all the events we have listed for the week. If you have an event or you have a business you would like us to spotlight, please let us know. You can message the show on Instagram or on Facebook, and we'll do our best to try to mention it. Of course, we can't mention every single event every week, but the events that are noteworthy, we will try to do our best And also for businesses, we will try to highlight one business a week. Speaking of highlighting one business per week, we're going to highlight the Savage Wheat Project this week. They are a wholesale bakery based in Western New York, dedicated to restoring ancient strains of wheat to promote a healthier planet and community. And this is founded by the founder, Emily Savage, who I've met. She's been great. Every time I've dealt with her, she's been awesome. Sometimes for the jiu-jitsu tournaments, we would get Savage Wheat bars and sell these organic bars that have organic wheat and peanut butter and stuff like that in them. So it's all clean ingredients. They also make different breads, different grains, things like this to make sure that we're eating clean and not eating foods covered in glyphosate, weed killers, pesticides, and poisons. So if you want to check them out, you can check them out online at savagewheat.com. They also sell their goods and products at local stores and markets, such as the Hamburg Farmers Market, which will be starting really soon, the Hometown Market in East Aurora, the Farm Store in Lexington, and Thorpe's Organic Farm Store in Strikersville in East Aurora. All right, thanks so much for tuning in this week to the I Love Buffalo podcast. We really appreciate it. Again, I'm your host, Josh Ketry. We're going to sign off here with George Carlin. He's a comedian, and he does this bit about celebrating what we have in common instead of what we have different. So let's look at what we share in common. And the things we share in common is starting off with, let's help each other solve problems. Well, we can do that right here in Buffalo, New York. And just remember, a rising tide lifts all ships. All right, here's George.
Now, to balance the scale, I'd like to talk about some things that bring us together. Things that point out our similarities instead of our differences. Because that's all you ever hear about in this country is our differences. That's all the media and the politicians are ever talking about, the things that separate us, things that make us different from one another. That's the way the ruling class operates in any society. They try to divide the rest of the people. They keep the lower and the middle classes fighting with each other so that they, the rich, can run off with all the fucking money. Fairly simple thing, happens to work. You know, anything different, that's what they're going to talk about. Race, religion, ethnic and national background, jobs, income, education, social status, sexuality, anything they can do, keep us fighting with each other so that they can keep going to the bank.
Rest in peace, Mr. George Carlin. You were ahead of your time. Labels keep us separated. We need to find a way to unify as humanity under one label. Until next time, Buffalo.